Whether you want to admit it or not, the FC franchise, formerly known as FIFA, got better last year, but they still need our help being realistic, because at its heart, it's an arcade game. And that's fine, but some of us like a more realistic game playing experience. And for years now, we've created that for FIFA players who like to slow the game down a little and have it actually resemble the game we love watching in person. And the early returns on FC 26 are that it's just about the same gameplay as last year, but with a few small tweaks. Which is where I come in. For the 5th year in a row, we are making our realism sliders. They're going to be the most realistic playing experience you can find for FC 26 anywhere on ultimate difficulty. We're going to bring them to you next, here on Total FIFA Career Mode at the Pitchside Pub. Welcome back to the Pitchside Pub, where normally we do commentary videos on the real football world, and of course we're going to keep doing those, but we also love playing FIFA, or FC as it's called now. And we've been making videos and putting them on our channel since FIFA 20, and we've been fixing EA's sliders that entire time because they need a lot of work to make the game more realistic. Now last year, EA did actually admit that it was much more arcade style than realistic gameplay. No matter how much they try to make it realistic, they finally admitted it by creating something called authentic play. And that was a step in the right direction, but it still needs some more work because the game was still way too open, way too fast, and way too offensively focused. And when you play on ultimate difficulty, it's also too one-sided. Now this year, the early returns have a lot of people questioning if the pendulum has swung too far the other way, making ultimate difficulty too easy. But our sliders will accommodate for that too, because once you take away EA's default settings, the game AI changes a lot and the calibration takes over. Now these sliders may not be for everybody, but if you find legendary difficulty too easy, or in the past you found ultimate difficulty too hard, and you want a more realistic, actually authentic gameplay that more mirrors actual football, then these are the sliders for you. But before we get to the sliders, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel, especially if there's any updates throughout the year on these sliders. We will adjust them if need be. Get down in the comments. I would love your feedback. Everybody can adjust these a little bit as they go for their playing style, but I'd love your thoughts on these sliders and how they work for you. You can also leave some comments and follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. Now, if you want to just skip ahead to the sliders, you can find them at the end of this video. That's fine. But I go into this level of detail because every year I get a lot of questions on how I developed these sliders, what was the process like, and of course, why I picked certain things at certain levels and how we made them. So I am going to give you a deep dive into how they look. But if you want the full sliders and you just want to go to those, go to the end of the video and I've got them there for you. Because these aren't something we just threw together randomly. We spent a lot of time and effort testing these at different levels. So we know they'll work no matter what league or team you play with. And if you want to test them out before diving into your career, I want to make sure you're using the same testing characteristics that I used when developing them. So there were 3 things you've got to look out for. Number 1, when you're testing these, you have to make sure you're using similarly rated teams that have the same or 1 point off in their overall rating. The reason for this is so we can create relatively even matchups, so you know it should be a very tough game. Secondly, the game doesn't let you put ultimate difficulty in exhibition matches, so you have to start a career and then test it there. So to test these sliders, I created about a dozen different careers, simulated through the calendar to get the even matchup I wanted to test it, and then played a dozen or so games with those teams, making adjustments along the way, and I would recommend that you do the same. And lastly, I use 10-minute halves. Now that's longer than a lot of people use, but if you don't use 10 minutes, there won't be enough overall chances for each team. The goal I'm trying to achieve is to have the right amount of shots and shots on target and XG to what you'd find in a real game. So if you play shorter games, you may have to loosen up some of the sliders that prevent offense. So here are the sliders that FC 26 says are authentic, and this is our jumping off point. But of course, the first thing you notice is that while they've adjusted them from the standard arcade style settings where everything's just a 50, they haven't adjusted them between the user and the computer. And that's obviously ridiculous because in past years, playing on standard ultimate difficulty was damn near impossible, which is why I began making these sliders in the first place. So of course we have to adjust the user and the computer sliders in different directions. Now most of the changes you're going to see revolve around slowing the game down, slowing the computer decision-making down, and making their shooting less powerful, less accurate, and less effective because, simply put, they score too easily without these sliders. The key change last year was to allow us to adjust the 7 AI computer sliders, and these were absolutely game-changing. They center more around the computer's decision-making rather than the skill of the players. For the first time, we were able to get the computer to actually slow down and play like real players, where things like fatigue and decision-making actually exist. This year, EA added a few more slider options for the user and the computer, and those are header shot and pass error, intercept error, all deflection error, and tackle assistance. Now, these definitely took some adjusting. So here's last year's sliders. You can see how much we had already adjusted certain skills, and in some cases how much of a disparity we had to put in between the user and the computer setting. Trust me, this doesn't make it too easy, especially not too easy to score. And you can see how much we adjusted the computer AI sliders, which is what slows the pace down tremendously. Now for this year, we've made only slight adjustments to what we had last year because I was finding it a little too easy to score this year and the computer just wasn't taking enough chances. But I only made incremental changes, nothing major. Where the majority of the testing took place this year was getting the new sliders right because they had more effect than I had anticipated. First, we had to figure out what they do. Now, the header shot error and header pass error were pretty self-explanatory, and they weren't too far off. I left the header shot error as EA has it, and I adjusted the pass error slightly. But the ones that affected defense were a lot tougher. The intercept error supposedly affects, quote, the amount of error applied to a team's ability to control the ball when intercepting passes. And it wasn't too far off, but I did have to split the user and the computer settings because they had them the same. Now, the ball deflection error was strange because it says in the description that, quote, the impact of physics on the team's ball deflections. This seems to just imply how strongly the physics engine works within the game when the ball starts bouncing around, and I'm not sure why you wouldn't want that working at its full effectiveness, so we cranked that up to 99 on both, and it's working just fine. Lastly, we have the tackle assistance, and this is by far the most important of the new sliders. One of the hardest parts about playing on ultimate difficulty is how aggressively they play defense, mainly when their defenders tackle your ball carriers almost immediately and almost always without punishment. What the tackle assistant says it does is adjust the forgiveness of each side's tackling. So in testing this, we cranked it way up on the user end and way down on the computer side, which did make it far too easy at first to score and tackle, but then we gradually scaled it back until we found a reasonable level. So with these new sliders properly calibrated and last year's sliders adjusted to account for this year's gameplay changes, we now have a really effective set of realistic sliders that will help your gameplay in your careers mirror what we see on the pitch in the real footballing world. This should give you a good gameplay experience. Again, if you want something fast-paced and easy and arcade style, these aren't for you. If you want it to slow down and feel like an actual football game, this is what we're trying to accomplish. It's not supposed to be easy. It's also not supposed to be impossible. It should be a challenge. When you score a goal, it should feel like you really accomplished something, just like it does in a real football match. If that's what you're looking for, these are for you. We're gonna put these sliders up here now for you to copy down, pause this video, do whatever you want with, and as you start to use them, I'd love for you to get down in the comments section, let me know your thoughts. You can also leave comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. We will do some updates and some other FIFA videos throughout the year, and of course check out our website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Total FIFA Career Mode at the Pitchside Pub. Happy gameplay, everybody.